Okay, now what you've got is a scenario, and it asks you to do certain things. And it says basically from the start, the senior management team of a local medium-sized organisation has become aware that the communication problems are within the company. Customers have been complaining of poor service, managing director is appalled, and they're looking to find ways of improving. So your work as a training consultancy, an experienced colleague, Aisha Kamari, has established that the problems are inside the company and you have been asked to deliver the proposed solutions. So you received the following email and attached report from Aisha. The report reads that I recently visited SHDE Holdings and attached my report. Please read it carefully. I would like you to finish the project. The business needs a workshop on communication with some training materials, for example, manual or handouts, plus a report to the senior management team. So please carry out the following tasks. Prepare a formal report for senior staff and line managers at the company. This is AC 5.1. You'll notice that the assessment criteria are not necessarily in the order that they are in the list. They don't go right from 1 to 5. In this task, you're covering 5.1 and 5.3. So you'll need to use charts and graphs to present information as appropriate to convey quantitative data. The report should include an analysis of the process of communication within organisations and the barriers that exist within those organisations, meaning communication is sometimes not as effective as it should be. And give examples from SHDE Holdings. An assessment of the methods of internal communication that should be used for different purposes, for example, telephone call for clarification of complex matter, email for confirmation of detail. Please support this with an assessment of what other organisations do and examples that you could apply to SHDE. That's AC 1.2. So you've covered now 5.1, 5.3, 1.1, 1.3 and 1.2. The next part of this assignment or task is an assessment of how organisations portray themselves through their communication system. In other words, what image does SHDE Holdings currently have? You've seen the report, so you can see that it's not good. Give an assessment of other organisations and the images they portray through communication. So you need some examples there, and that covers AC 2.3. If you want to go for a merit above the pass level, you provide guidance for SHDE using examples of best practice from other organisations that you've just covered here. Make sure that you analyse possible legal and ethical issues in relation to the communication of information within organisations. And evaluate the effectiveness of a range of communication systems, verbal, non-verbal, in contributing to the success of an organisation. That's 3M1. Now, we covered some of these last week. Did you manage to get any work done on that? Have you put any of that together? Hello? Did you manage to...
money over some accounts.
What I need you to do is, let's just look at task 1 for now. What I want you to do is do the work at task 1. There are a number of things on there that will help you.
Yes.
On the website that will help you on the Moodle. You can look at those and put those together. If I'm going to drop back onto that one. Go back from there. So, oh no, here we are. that's the assignment brief. So you can look at any of these PowerPoint presentations are open to you to have a look at. Yeah, talking about communication models. How we try to understand communication. So what are models? Well, communication models are drawings, charts, diagrams, pictograms, schematics, cartoons, and of course text. Yeah. Why are they useful? They help to simplify complex ideas. For instance, in another life, I was a mechanical engineer. We used to use algorithms, which are diagrams saying, if this works, it must be that, or if that works, it doesn't work, it must be this, or look at that if that doesn't work. It was to save having loads and loads of text to read through, and you could work simply on very complex ideas, and you could look at them very quickly and understand them. So they help for teaching purposes or for evaluation purposes, which is the example I was just offering you then. They offer an organised way of looking at a complex process. So what makes it good? All the main points of the relationship or process are described. The description is simple and clear, and the description contains as little textual explanation as possible. Yeah.
Yes.
So Sheldon and Weaver's model, I did this last week with you, I think, didn't I? Not last week, sorry, the week before. Yeah.
Yes.
Looking at transmission model, so it's looking at the information source, the transmitter, the channel, the receiver, where it was going to, and the channel is the way it's actually delivered. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
The method, if you like, of communication. So a modified one is sender, message, receiver, feedback, back to sender. In other words, two people talking to each other. One sends, gives somebody a message, the receiver receives the message and answers it, basically, and that is from one position and another. It can be in the next office, it could be in the next country, it can be the other side of the world, but the process is exactly the same, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is noise? Physical noise is occurrences in the physical surroundings or media that can distort the message. As we have had on here today, we've had some sort of audio issues, yeah, with background noises and so forth. Physical discomfort in the body, either from the sender or the receiver. In other words, they're not listening properly or they're not giving the right information because of their own physical discomfort. They could be in a bad position or they may be in a hurry, something of that nature.
Yes.
And again, psychological. Negative feelings in the mind of either the sender or the receiver. I don't like talking to this person. I never have liked talking to this person. They never answer me. All sorts of things like that can be in the noise, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And perceptual, that is misunderstandings or incorrect perceptions of the message and the receiver by the sender, and vice versa. In other words, using words which the other person perceives to be different than what they actually are. Maybe because in the manner in which they were spoken. Yeah. And that can be sometimes a misinterpretation of words or sentences by the sender and receiver. This is very easy to do in English, as you can take a letter out of one word or mispronounce a word and it sounds like something else entirely. So yeah, semantic.
Mm-hmm.
So Berlow's SMCR model is very similar. So you've got the source, the message, the channel, and the receiver, which is basically the same four elements of before.
Yes.
So the source is communication skills. It can be attitudes to that. Some people don't like to use email because they're not good with computers and they're frightened of making a mistake. Knowledge, or not understanding the other person.
Yes.
In some areas, a social system. Why am I talking to this person? And that wouldn't happen in the UK, hopefully. But yeah, that can happen. And the culture involved.
Yeah.
The message itself is the content of the message, the elements it's made up from, yeah, how it is treated in the delivery,
Yes.
and the way it's structured as well. And sometimes code. Now, what would you say code was?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think code could be?
What is Perlos? Perlos elements.
Yes, but it's also, go on, sorry.
Uh-huh.
It's also, it could be jargon that people use instead of the right terminology, and people can misunderstand or not understand what the jargon's about. Yeah.
Mm.
Well, an example of jargon is that in the training and education industry, students are mostly termed now as learners. That is the way the development lead body asks you to say it, but people still use student anyway.
Mm.
So the different channels or methods are seeing, hearing, touching, smelling and tasting. Obviously the last three can only be done if you're in the same position and the message is being transmitted face to face. But seeing, as we've got on here now, you're able to see my screen, and I hope you can see my mug at the bottom in that little bubble, because I've got my webcam to work today. So seeing and hearing are a mixture of the two, depending on what method or channel that you're using. It could be a method of voice communication, like we've got now on a platform. It could be any sort of method of looking at something. It could be pictures sent via a text. It could be just playing audio on a telephone. So the receiver is just in the same position. The communication skills of the receiver, the attitude of the receiver, the understanding and knowledge, the system and culture, of course, remain the same for both. So it's got to be a system of communication that both people understand and have knowledge of. Yeah. So that was elements of communication. Now you've got a couple of things on here you can look at. I don't intend to go through all the PowerPoint presentations with you. There are a number on here. We've looked at models just now because that is the more fundamental one. Yeah. But you can get detailed ones. Go and persuade this one to come up. Yeah, dealing with email.
Yes.
Email is probably the most used now in business. There are a number of reasons for that. One is that imagine you've had a telephone call with somebody that you don't know, and you had to impart that information, certain information. If you tell them what you've been told to say, and they say afterwards, you never said that, then you've got no backup to prove that you did. Whereas with email, the message is there and they are kept, so you've got a record of what's been delivered and what hasn't. Yeah. So that nobody can accuse you of not telling them something if it's already down in email. So yeah. So this is quite not a brand new one, this, but it's switching over to email, understanding email, using email effectively, and changing the way you work, and choosing between email and other media.
Yes.
So the introduction is all about the benefits of using email, examples of which I just gave you a minute ago. but it's taking control and switching over to email. You can read through this at your leisure. One of the things that it creates is that it new users. In other words, people have to learn how to apply email, because it's probably not the best quality for best media for some things. You can send an email message to a number of people to say you want to see them at a meeting, where you believe that the meeting is the best way of getting that information over. Sometimes just sending an email is not good enough. You've got to make sure everybody, if it's something that everybody must understand and be aware of, then you need to get people together into a meeting to do that. Or an online meeting like this, a virtual conference. But an email message itself would not be the best medium for transmitting that sort of information. Another thing about email is that it shouldn't be too big. They shouldn't be big, long emails. They should be quite concise and follow up with other documentation sent as attachments rather than lots and lots and lots of text. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next one is just going over looking at email features, which you don't need really. Do you use email much? Manjay? Do you use email much? Yeah?
Yes, Thomas.
Use it personally. Yes, it's my main means of communication now. So again, there are about 70 pages in this. It's an ebook and it covers quite a lot of information. So if you need any further information, you can read through further on this. Communication.
Yes.
Where have we gone? Back to the assignment brief. So looking at the assignment brief again, what I need you to do for as soon as possible now is put some work together that will maintain this particular task. So task 1, a formal report for senior staff and managers at SHDE Holdings. You'll need to use some charts and graphs to show the information as appropriate to convey quantitative data. In other words, this is the bit where it's gone wrong for them. Yeah, you see, Ashir Kumar has done a report that you need to read. Yeah.
Yes.
Attach my report. Yeah. Please read it carefully. Yeah. So you need to read the report and then you can work from there. Yeah. There's a report. Yeah. Summary. What research was done and what the findings were. So you've now got all the information you need, the percentages of what's gone wrong, causes for complaints. Only 3% were about its products, 55% confirmed delivery, and 75% of these were about late delivery. So obviously, the biggest problem area is the delivery or non-delivery of their products. Yeah. So you need to look at the report, yeah, and then put your report in, which will be Your report will be to the senior staff and managers using the charts and graphs with the figures that you've got in the report to show them what needs to be done. Yeah. An analysis of the process of communication, which you've just had a look at and we've just had a look at now, and the barriers that can exist within organisations, meaning that communication is sometimes not effective. In other words, people who are sending the orders through and the people that are picking them up aren't communicating. So giving examples of what's gone wrong there from the other report. Yeah.
Yes.
Your assessment of the methods of internal communication that should be used for the different purposes. and sort of, if it's a formal communication with customers, then it can be a sent out letter, telephone calls for clarification of a complex matter, an email for confirmation of details. So if it's delivery information, then obviously email is probably going to be the best there. Please support this with an assessment of what other organisations do. So you need to do some research into other organisations' communication systems. A lot of these are available on the net, and there are some on the, just let me go back. Communicating Effectively for Dummies by Marty Bernstein. How you communicate to make your point in just a minute is on Philip Carnpanny.
Yes.
And then there are some more communication models there. Yeah. And there's a detailed PowerPoint for Learning Objectives 1 and 2 and Learning Objective 3 as well. So you can have a look at those. Those are basically covering the specific criteria at 4.3 Learning Objective 1 and 2. Yeah. How did you, after the first meeting, did you make a start on any of this? Sorry?
Sorry?
Did you manage to make a start on the project?
Assignment?
Yeah.
Yeah, now I'm starting.
Sorry?
Yeah, now I'm doing my assignment.
Right, okay. Well, what I would suggest you to do, when you've done the first bit, if I go back to the assignment brief again. The first part of task 1, oops, I'll go back to that. Wrong one, sorry. Go back to there again. Missed the wrong one. The first bit is write a formal report, right? And the report should go an analysis of the communication within organisations and the barriers that exist, giving examples from SHDE. Once you've completed that part A, once you've completed part A, send me some work in and let me have a look at it, and I'll give you some feedback from that. Yeah. Can you still hear me? Hello? Anyway, I'll finish that off and I'll get that to send the recording. Are you there? Are you still there? Ah, great. You went off again. On that part there, look at A and B, yeah?
Yes. Complete
A and B, and then send me some work in to learnerwork@ukversity.org.uk. If you send it into there, it will find its way to me, and I will give you some feedback on that, and then before you carry on any further, and then working from that feedback, you'll be able to continue straightforwardly. Is that okay?
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Have you got any questions today before we complete today? Is that a no?
Yeah, no.
You're okay, yeah. But as I've said before, I will send you my phone number, yeah. And I will send you my phone number, yeah, my telephone number. if you're stuck on anything or not sure about something, just send me a text, yeah?
Yes.
And I'll respond with a text because that's quicker. But once you've completed A and B, send me that work in a Word document, and then I will give you some feedback on it, yeah?
Yeah.
And if you can do that before next week, that would be great. Is that okay?
Yes, okay, I got it.
Okay then, well I'll close them for today and leave you to get on with that. But as I said, contact me in between if you get stuck with anything and we'll move it on from there. Okay?
Okay.
Alright, thanks for attending. I will close the meeting now. And thank you for attending. And again, don't forget, call me if you've got a problem. Yeah. Bye, guys.